They say that football is the beautiful game, and it is. But there are some ugly sides to it. The most recent news today about these greedy six being fined for trying to create the European Super League, it's made my blood boil a little bit. You look at other clubs that are in lower parts of the English footballing spectrum, and they didn't even commit things as bad as what these greedy six did. Yet the clubs below got the more severe punishments. How do I feel about this? Well, you're going to find out in this video, as well as two other topics. This week's episode of Off the Press is very diverse, if I can use that word. I'm going to be talking about the news today that has broken about the greedy six clubs being fined money for their role in trying to create the European Super League. And one, I'm going to tell you the amount they all got fined, and two, go off on one a little bit about why they were fined that much and how disgraceful it is. I'm also going to be talking about Stuart Pearce's comments on TalkSPORT regarding his new contract and David Moyes' future. And Vladimir Sofar's been making the news for a video that's kind of gone viral within West Ham Twitter community. The clubs known as the Greedy Six tried to form the European Super League, which was going to be a breakaway league from the Premier League in which they would compete against European elites only. It was kind of structured like a North American Super League, if you want me to put it like that way, like a North American professional sports league where there'd be no relegations, playoffs, and there wouldn't be a case of the team that finishes top wins the whole thing. Each team in England was fined £3.5 million. That is a very tiny little slap on the wrist for something so severe that it could have destroyed the integrity and the long-standing structure of domestic sport, of domestic football. And it's something that was so damaging that it caused a massive uproar and was eventually told that it would not go ahead, to put it that way. What aggravates me the most about this is that other clubs have done things that weren't even as bad as that, but got punished even more. Like Luton Town were docked 30 points. Burnley were expelled from the Football League. Macclesfield went out of business. Bolton Wanderers nearly went out of business. West Ham got fined £30 million over the Carlos Tevez transfer saga. So, this is what is wrong with football. It's the fact that it's the governing bodies don't do enough to stop clubs from doing things like this. These clubs have got powerful, wealthy billionaire owners who think that they've got the right to invest money into things to sort problems out or to make new things. They don't do that. They are not above the law. They are not above a footballing governing body, and they should not be either. But what gets me, how can you fine a football club 30 million over a transfer, yet fine a bigger club 3.5 million over a attempt to destroy the footballing pyramid? Which is more severe? I think that the Tevez saga should have been a 3.5 million fine, and these big clubs should have either had some kind of transfer embargo or a fine of about 30 to 50 million. It's just wrong. And to say that these big six clubs got off lightly is a massive understatement. I think I've said it before in the previous video. They wanted to make these clubs a franchise to be marketed all over the world, and that was another thing that would have destroyed football. And thankfully the Super League hasn't happened. But those few days where it could have happened were some of the worst and the most painful in football. I'm glad it never happened though. But these clubs needed to be punished a lot harsher than what they got. Who's to say they won't do it again? And if they do it again, that's when the real action needs to take place, because it's unacceptable, it doesn't fly. No football fan would ever want that. No future footballer would ever want that. They'd want the chance to play in the Premier League and to win FA Cups and Premier League titles. Not play with elite players. Yeah, that's good. You do that in the Champions League. But not just in one massive Super League. It's just wrong. Just wrong what they did. Stuart Pearce went on TalkSPORT this week to talk about his future at West Ham, and he gave some insight into David Moyes' future at the club. It was interesting to talk about, and it's quite agreeable with what he says. But he does mention some things that are kind of making me a bit paranoid and worried. He's saying that he will sign a new deal once Moyes signs a new deal, and Moyes hasn't even signed the new deal yet. I'll just read out the quote of what he said and then give my thoughts on it. For all intents and purposes, him and the club have agreed to extend his contract. Until David agrees his contract, it's folly for me to make any sort of movement towards signing a new contract at the club. The club have made me an offer, which I'm very grateful for, but I've not spoken to them in regard to agreeing a contract because my allegiance is with David. He was the one that brought me to the club. I did it with 2 spells as well. When David Moyes had his first spell as West Ham manager, he had Stuart Pearce here. And in the time between those 2 spells, Stuart Pearce made a comment about the board, about not meeting them and they never really spoke to them. And I did agree with what he said when he criticised the board, but either way, Stuart Pearce came back to the club. And he, as well as many other members of the coaching staff, as we know, have been absolutely exceptional. And I think that Stuart Pearce wants some clarity over David Moyes' future. Once Moyes puts pen to paper, it's worth noting that David Moyes is on holiday right now, so he might not do it just yet. But once David Moyes does actually put pen to paper and does agree the new deal, however long it is, Stuart Pearce will sign as well. And it needs doing. This contract nonsense needs doing before another club takes David Moyes away from us, if that does happen. And it'll probably be Everton that do it. A video of Vladimir Coufal has been circulating on social media this week. I've got to talk about this. Coufal and Souček are away on international duty with the Czech Republic, and they're going to be playing in the Euros, of course. Prior to the tournament starting, the Czech Republic's had a few friendly games, and one of those was against Albania. Czech Republic won 2-0. During the game, Coufal clattered into Albania's 75-year-old head coach and took him to the floor. Quite aggressive looking, if I don't deny it. It looks kind of bad at first sight. He just absolutely knocks a pensioner over. I'm just thinking to myself when I see this, I think West Ham's taught him some things. So playing for West Ham's taught him how to be a bit more of that East End mentality. All he needs now is a flat cap, a Stone Island sweater, and he just needs some, I don't know, a couple cans of Carlin or something. You know, maybe get him a little bit more hyped up in games. And if he can do that with West Ham, we are going to have the best right back in the Premier League, the most physical right back in the Premier League. I'm not saying that I condone him knocking over a 75-year-old man, don't get me wrong. It's sure it was accidental. But I just saw the reaction to Coufal doing that, and I couldn't not talk about it in this video. Crazy. It's the Romford effect for you. I think this is what it is with players. They come to West Ham and they're completely changed and they become a little bit more East Endish. Thank you very much for watching this week's episode of Off the Press. I want to hear your thoughts on the topics in the comments. Do you think the Greedy Six got off very lightly? What are your thoughts on Stuart Pearce's comments, and do you think David Moyes will legitimately sign a new deal? And what do you think of the Coufal video? Did you laugh at it? Did you feel disappointment at watching it? What did you think of Coufal knocking over an old coach? Personally, I found it a little bit shocking, but I smiled at the same time, and I don't know why. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take care, and I'll see you all soon.